And I'm really excited to have Mike Zetkovich joining us today. He's our head of customer growth at Bloomreach. He brought with him nearly a decade of experience in the industry, including 3 years most recently for Monotate. For the majority of his career, he's focused on helping clients grow revenue by leveraging data and emerging technologies to try to maximize those sales opportunities. His latest focus, or maybe I should say obsession here at Bloomreach, is the pathways and recommendations capability. And he's going to share with you today a lot of the best practices he's discovered as he's gone through the process of really learning the ins and outs of that tool. So with no further ado, I'll hand that over to Mike. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Justin. Thank you, everyone, for having me. Thanks for joining us. Really exciting time at Bloomreach, and hope that this session is valuable to you folks. So we're here to talk about getting value out of Recs and Pathways module, but just at a high level, zooming out, you have a variety of tools in your toolkit when you're thinking about driving growth and revenue for your business. And just keeping those strategic goals in the back of our minds is critical when we kind of hone in on the granularity and the depth of an experience we're trying to drive. What use case are we really going to arrive at? So what's our boss's boss care about? Like, where is the business going at a very, very high level? And that can be something generic, like we need to grow X amount of revenue in X amount of time. Nested within that, how does digital play in, right? What KPIs matter the most, right? We all love saying we're trying to drive conversion, but can we unpack that a little bit? What, are we thinking about new visitor return rate? Are there certain pages that are high friction points for the customer? And really trying to align that customer journey and the customer experience to those strategic goals. So what's happening to our customer as they're navigating through our site or app or whatever the digital experience may be? What do we want to happen to them? And how does that ladder up? How's that reflected in our KPIs? And how are those KPIs married to our strategic goals? And lastly, just this piece of competitive contextualization. As merchandisers, as e-commerce professionals, as personalization gurus, we often do like rear view driving. We look over our shoulder and see, hey, we're brand A, brand B is doing X on their site today. We want to copy that, which is sometimes useful, but usually you want to contextualize it within your own data, your own customers, and think more broadly about where are our customers going when they leave, not only from a direct competitive perspective, but from a attention and expectation perspective. So what we see a lot of the time is that the expectation of the customer is an immersive and rich and seamless experience that is, being perpetuated by Amazon and Reddit and Netflix and Spotify. And these are just mine. These are where I go when I stop shopping. But these are things that we need to keep in the back of our minds as we're trying to create this relevant and seamless experience for our customers. So enough of the abstract stuff. We're here to talk about Recs and Pathways. If you're confused on what is what, the easiest way to think about it is recommendation is an algorithm that factors in customer behavior and reacts to that customer behavior, right? So typically when we think about personalization, we say, I know something about you, I'm doing something about it. If a lot of folks like me viewed products that look like this, you may want to show me those products to make my journey more relevant, right? A co-viewed algorithm. A pathway is merely a collection of items that you can pivot off of, basically with a brand query, with a search query, with a category query. This is a collection. So rather than reacting to our customer and kind of their behavior or our broader suite of customers, we're reacting to our business and what our needs are. Maybe we want to showcase new arrivals, or maybe we want to highlight a special brand. Maybe there's a special type of category that we can't get to, that we need to pass-stitch together. That's really where Pathways comes in, is leveraging all that powerful Bloomreach AI, that foundational layer and understanding of how products work together, all that data that you have available through your search and merchandising solution, but being much more agile and versatile with its placement of Pathways. And we'll talk in more depth about examples and placements and kind of where you might want to use a recommendation or a pathway on site. But the most important thing to think about within the context of both of these is, what am I reacting to? Am I reacting to customer behavior, or, as a former client used to affectionately call whenever a VP or a stakeholder swings by and tells you, change gears, you need to do this now. I had a customer used to call it a drive-by, right? We've all been exposed to it. We all have to change gears quickly, more so in 2021 than possibly ever. And so the right balance of both of these will ensure that you're driving the most value. So we can use recommendations and pathways to do a lot of stuff. We can think about the whole customer journey, everything from product discovery through driving revenue, driving conversions, bolstering and augmenting the basket farther down in the journey, and even adding product recommendations to content pages. We'll talk about those in more depth here in just a minute. The first thing, before we ever start thinking about a recommendation set or a placement on a site, is thinking again about our customer and trying to identify the micro conversion. This is really like standard stuff when you think about optimization and testing, but it's very easy to forget when we go very, very deep and live and breathe our own website. But for each customer, where are they coming from? So referral strategy is vital. You don't want somebody who comes to your site directly of their own volition once a week to have the same experience that somebody who's scanning Facebook who clicked through on an ad and arrived on your site, versus someone who clicked through an email because they purchased a lot of products. So where they're coming from is really important. How they're arriving on the site, if that's directly to the homepage or some of your high volume landing pages, category pages, product detail pages, that's also important. And where are they getting stuck? What are our friction points? Do we have certain product detail pages that are really high in terms of bounce? Are people exiting at a certain point in the site because the delivery for the promise isn't there for them, right? They came to the site for a specific reason. They didn't see what they wanted. Now they left. And keeping at the forefront of our mind what we want to happen exactly in the moment will help us use basically a data-driven vector for where we're going to put placement throughout the site. So choosing the right strategy. We'll start at a high level. The front door of your site is your homepage. And not super complex here. You typically, let's just start with new visitors versus returning visitors. If I'm a new visitor to your site, I've never been on site before, right? We've all had this experience where you come to a net new site and the first thing you see is a 70% off light box, right? Well, maybe I just got my tax return and I'm ready to burn a little bit of coin. Maybe I wasn't going to need the 70% off, right? So think about, for a new visitor, it's about welcoming me. Show me how to navigate around your site, tell your brand story, immerse me in the content, and then most importantly, lead with kind of your best version of yourselves. So in that case, a lot of times a bestseller algorithm is really valuable. Why bestsellers? Because you don't know that much about me yet. I haven't demonstrated any behavior for you to react to, but you know that these products sell. And so that initial engagement, showing me what you have to offer, could be really compelling. Let's say I'm a return visitor, that example that I mentioned a minute ago of, I have certain sites personally that I just check in on once a week, once every couple of weeks. I don't buy stuff that often, but I love to see what they're doing. So that might be an example where if you show me bestsellers every single time, I'm going to wear, I'm going to become fatigued, I'm going to get bored, and I might go to your competitor, or I might never come back again. So trending now might be a more valuable one there if you have return visitors. Again, look at the analytics. Most customers, their return visitors are typically much higher value. They're also, and just getting a new visitor to a returning visitor is already going to be much more valuable in terms of the revenue you're seeing from each one of those individuals. Again, they're back on site for a reason. They're checking in. That means that they have some sort of affinity. Let's leverage that information that they've shared with us to create a relevant experience. When you think about some of your high traffic landing pages, but really you can use pathways with global context. There are a myriad of opportunities for you. One would be using new arrivals. So you can create a new category for site-wide new arrivals using a search pathway and using the only rule for new products. This is the same as you would do it, very similar to what you would do in your search and merge solution, but having that little ribbon of new arrivals can be something that you want to demonstrate to certain customers at certain points in the journey. Special brands, right? Some people shop only specifically based on brands, or maybe there's a special collection that you want to showcase based on something that you're doing for St. Patty's Day or in about 6 weeks for Memorial Day. So a lot of those use cases can be, you can have a single API, single placement, and you can basically create a rule that says on this page, we're only going to show this brand. On that page, we're only going to show that brand. Can be really, really effective from shopping. And then lastly, another global context pathway that you can use is what we call aisle shopping. So basically, this is mirroring your physical in-store experience that allows people to discover subcategories within a single view. So again, one of the things that we try to drive at Bloomreach is try not to be limited to this sort of like Amazon-centric 5-product grid with the price perspective. Like that's a very, very natural and effective way of driving engagement, but it can be more graceful, it can be more subtle. A pathway can be a portal, right? It can be a banner that you click into that then sends you a curated assortment of products. You can leverage the same concepts throughout your category and search pages. Basically, in the blue here are just some high-level pathways you can use. There's really no limit. It's really dependent on the creativity and the needs of your merchandising team. Again, anything you can use a search query for, you can use a brand query, you can use a category query, you can really refine and then layer in all your boost and berry and levers that you're used to using within a ribbon, right? And so on the left, this has been a category page, or within a search page, you can do a brand boost, you can do a bestseller, you can do a new arrival, you can have on-sale items persist throughout. This is just something that will be more dependent on the use case, right? So for certain brands, certain companies, they know that they have high margin brands. They have brands that they really need to advocate for. Having those persist can be a huge revenue differentiator for you. When we think back to those initial strategic goals, that's something that if it comes up, you have an immediate answer for the low level of lift solution. Getting a little bit deeper here is the concept of overwriting the journey, right? So typically, if I'm shopping for maternity wear, you may want to just show me more and more maternity dresses and skirts, right? But at some point, I'm going to stop wearing that type of apparel, and I'm going to be potentially, hopefully, shopping for the baby, right? Now, this is disruptive, and it can be intentionally so. I have a customer from a previous life who they sold footwear like hotcakes. They couldn't sell enough of them. They did extremely well, but they knew that while they were hot now, maybe they wouldn't be in 5 to 10 years. So they were really focused on driving cross-category exploration, overriding the journey at a specific point in time, forcing exposure to different types of products. Here we're using a category pathway to expose people to a different product. And sometimes the payoff on that won't be immediate. So this is something you want to be think tactically about. Do most people buy within a single session, or do they buy across 3 sessions? Is exposing me to baby wear in this session mean that in 3 sessions or in 6 weeks, right? My son's now 5 months, I'm going to come back and kind of kick off a whole different buying journey with a different perspective that I maybe wouldn't have considered if you hadn't exposed it to me at that moment in time. The reason this says spearfishers here is because all of us have the customers that they come, they buy the same thing over and over again, and we love them for it. But sometimes we want to think about kind of pushing them and exposing them to more that we have available. Past purchases, just a quick hitter here. We have a past purchases pathway for those customers that are really focused on replenishment. This is a really valuable one to use. I would recommend being tactical with this one because, again, it is valuable to show people what they've purchased in the past, but you are going to limit that ability to explore and see kind of what else your brand has to offer. And that exploration, that immersion is really important, especially when we think about return visitors, especially when we think about return purchasers. Those are our most valuable customers, so we want to make sure that we're leveraging them maximally. For use cases where you have null search or low search results pages, if you have Bloomreach search and merch, the volume of null search and low search results pages will be decreasing with time, every time. But occasionally you will search for something crazy. I couldn't find within this one website my favorite purple brontosaurus. It took me a long time to actually get to a solution, get to an answer that didn't provide a result. But on null searches, what's going to happen next to me? I'm going to leave because I couldn't find my favorite purple brontosaurus. So at the very least, before I go, show me some bestsellers, show me trending products, because the alternative is that I'll exit the site and I might never come back. Right? And with low search results, you can also use a frequently viewed together algorithm based on the PID in the first product that's returned. But but always want to use something like bestsellers as a fallback algorithm so that you do fully populate and fully maximize the opportunity for product discovery and exposure. The PDP, right? This is kind of where all the magic happens, to quote an episode of Cribs. Like, this is where it's really important to think clearly about the customer experience. This is kind of the moment of inflection happens at the PDP most often, meaning at this point, they might bounce, they might look at other products, they might exit. There's a lot that can go down, but if they add to cart, then you've pushed them past a certain threshold where you now have a really meaningful relationship with your customer. After that add to cart moment of inflection, you can retarget them with email. They've demonstrated intent. A little icon often shows up in the top right. The relationship's in a different place now, right? So this is where those micro conversions are so critical. Getting them to add to cart can be really, really important. And it's best practice at Bloomreach to use a code viewed algorithm here. You can also use a similar product algorithm. In certain instances, you may want to use co-bought. I think a lot of B2B cases, co-bought makes a ton of sense. But really, you want to be thoughtful about using co-bought here. Because if I'm looking at a product and I'm scrolling down to the bottom, that means that the product here, so the Sherry indoor, outdoor, blue slate table, didn't do it for me. That means I want to continue browsing, right? I don't want to see the items that were bought with this product. I want to see other items that are similar that other people are looking at. We'll talk about co-bought and its placement. Typically, you want to do that in the actual cart or checkout, where people are going to be upsold on complementary items. But just something to think about here. Important call out, like what's the difference between similar products and co-viewed? Co-viewed is pixel-based. So what does customer behavior look like? The similar products is more focused on product metadata and attributes. So depending on your circumstance, you may want to show a customer what other customers are looking at, or you may want to show them, if it's a very specific kind of product, products that are comparable, right? Again, we can come at it from a perspective of the product data or the customer data. Really important call out here would be people that go directly to the product detail page via PLA. We've seen, and I've seen a few customers in the past experiment with this. This is often like, it could feel bold to our UX, UI people, but it's worth talking about. People who drive, whenever you're driving traffic directly to the product detail page, that traffic tends to bounce an awful lot. And when it bounces, they almost never come back. So you kind of have a very short period of time, split second, where you can make an impact. And in a lot of cases, showing me the product on the PDP, the best case scenario is you barely meet my expectations. Right? So one thing you can do is bump the product grid to the top of the page. That exposes the visitor to more products, that creates this sort of soft landing experience that we're talking about. Because again, I'm coming directly to the PDP. That means I didn't get your brand story on the homepage. I didn't get to see all the creative that you're putting in with your heroes and banners. It's a split second decision. And if I go back to the PLA Google Shopping, then I'm again shopping against your competitors. Whereas if you show me relative products and can drive an initial engagement with me, then I'm now shopping within the confines of what you generally sell. And I might be shopping around there. And so my dollars are not going to go to a competitor as quickly. Increasing basket size and average order value, pretty straightforward here. For a customer that's about to check out, we like the co-bought algorithm. This is one that can kind of tell you, hey, you're almost at the end of your journey here. Here are a couple things that you might want to toss in your basket just to round it out. For me, the physical manifestation of this is getting a Cinnabon on the way out of an airport after a work trip. I haven't done that in the COVID years in quite a long time, but when I used to travel, it was hard to walk by once I've already completed my journey and not buy a Cinnabon. So make sure you leave them with something extra here, at least give them the opportunity to buy it. Again, there are cases where this will be distracting. I had a fashion customer who said, if someone puts this level money purse into their bag, we want to get them to check out as quickly as possible. We don't want any other distractions. We're going to make it seamless and quick. If that's the scenario that you're in, sometimes you are, maybe you don't want a recommendation here. But generally, co-viewed across all the PDPs, co-bought across in your basket is going to drive a ton of revenue for you. And then this one's just kind of our goodie bag here. This is separate from your typical e-com funnel. Things that you can think about leveraging. An easy one that I think everyone's familiar with is an exit lightbox, but you can use a recommendation or a business-driven pathway to show a relevant product set right before I go, once I've demonstrated some sort of like a hover on the X to clear out your page and move on with my day. Last chance dance, right? You can show me some products and some bestsellers based on the products that are browsed by the shoppers. You can do this in panels or pop-ups. Again, depending on the customer behavior that you're reacting to, this can be really powerful. Lastly, upon arrival, for dynamic landing pages, basically you can add product recommendations to theme-based landing pages for categories, promo campaigns, etc. These can be really valuable as well. So in summary, it can be tempting to plaster recommendations and pathways all over your site. Definitely having them in key areas of the journey is better than not having them. But remember that changing customer behavior is hard. Now, something's happened in the last 18 months with COVID where customer behavior has been forced to change. And we like as e-commerce professionals and people who work in this space get to ride that a little bit. But changing your behavior to align with the customer expectations is a lot easier, and you're going to see much more return on it. Again, think about your micro conversions. Use the GA stuff that you have available. Where are they coming in? What does new versus returning look like? What does our device split look like? Are all those people getting differentiated experiences? And where are the friction points? Are they bouncing? Are they exiting at a high rate? Where can we continue to refine and optimize a little bit? Personalization should feel seamless and intuitive. I think this is obvious, but I think like you think of your Netflix or your Spotify, right? Like you don't notice that stuff. It just feels good. If it's too much and it's in your face, that can be discomforting. So we encourage you to think creatively, especially with pathways. You can basically, like the example of just having a hero that then leads to a curated view of a certain collection can be really, really powerful. It can be a more elegant way of showing products and having people exposed to your brand. And then the last one is just walk the line between your customer needs and your business needs. You should probably be reacting to both. And there's ways to leverage both recommendations and pathways to do that.